Number 5, Krakow, Italy. At the southeastern end of Italy sits the hill town of Craco, which dates back to the 8th century BCE. The town got its name in 1060 CE when it belonged to the Catholic Church. By 1276, it belonged to Muzio Sforza, a member of Italy's famous Sforza family, and by 1561, Krakow's population had swelled to over 2,500 inhabitants. Just 5 years later, in 1566, the plague struck, reducing the number of Krakow's residents, and in 1861, following the unification of Italy, Craco was beset by brigands. Between 1892 and 1922, over 1,300 residents of Craco emigrated to North America. In 1963, the centuries of digging to create buildings, sewers, and water systems caused a series of landslides. In 1972, a catastrophic flood engulfed Craco, followed by an earthquake in 1980 which was enough to completely empty the town. This abandoned city is ideal for filming movies, and Craco has been the setting for Judas's suicide in 2004's The Passion of the Christ, and it appeared in 2008's Quantum of Solace. Number 4, Hiroshima Island, Japan. This 16 acres 6.3 hectares island lies 9 miles, 15 kilometers, east of the city of Nagasaki in southern Japan. Hiroshima Island was established in 1887 to support the mining of undersea coal, and it reached a peak population of 5,259 in 1959. Structures that were built on the island included apartment blocks, schools, a hospital, a town hall, movie houses, stores, and a swimming pool. However, by 1974, the coal reserves were depleted, and the residents of Hiroshima Island left. The island was completely abandoned for the next 3 decades, but by the 2000s, interest in the island was growing, and it was opened to tourists in April 2009. Number 3, Pripyat, Ukraine. Probably the most famous abandoned city in the world is Pripyat, which had been built in 1970 to house workers at the Chernobyl nuclear power plant located less than 1.25 miles or 2 kilometers away. On April 27, 1986, Pripyat had 49,000 residents, 15 primary schools, 5 secondary schools, a large and well-equipped hospital, 25 stores, 10 gyms, 3 indoor swimming pools, 2 stadiums, and an amusement park that was being constructed. Just after midnight, an explosion ripped apart reactor number 4 at the Chernobyl complex, spewing dangerous radiation into the air. 36 hours after the explosion, authorities evacuated all the residents of Pripyat, all of whom were forced to leave their pets behind. A 30-mile exclusion zone was created around the crippled reactor, and in Pripyat, all the clocks stopped at 11:55 when power was cut to the city. Toys remained on the floors of schools where they had been dropped, and uniforms of the Chernobyl plant workers were still at the laundry. Nature soon reclaimed the city, with plants and trees growing into the abandoned buildings. Deer, wild boar, elk, and moose wandered the streets, attracting wolves, foxes, and lynx. In the last several years, homesteaders have returned to the exclusion zone, but radiation levels in the soil remain high. Cesium-137 has been found in cow's milk, picked up by grazing on contaminated grass, and radiation remains high in berries and mushrooms. Today, several tour companies take visitors to Pripyat where they can tour the abandoned schools, the hospital, and the amusement park. While the tour companies tout a lunch prepared outside the exclusion zone, you might want to bring your own. Number 2, Kalmanskop, Namibia. In 1908, German workers laying a railroad line found a diamond in Kalmanskop, and this kicked off an influx of miners from areas within the German Empire. The diamonds mined brought enormous wealth, and the miners recreated a German town in Kalmanskop, complete with a hospital, power station, school, theater, sports facility, and an ice factory. Kalmanskop had the first tram and the first X-ray machine in the southern hemisphere. However, following World War II, the diamond field started to deplete, and by 1956, Kalmanskop was a ghost town. Sand started invading the houses, making Kalmanskop a popular destination for photographers. In 2010, the town was featured in an episode of the television series Life After People, which showed the effects of wind and sand on the town. Number 1, Kilchan Castle, Scotland. This Scottish castle was built in the mid-1400s and housed some of the most powerful people in the country. Kilchan Castle was a fortress, a comfortable residence and later a garrison stronghold, and contains the oldest surviving barracks on the British mainland. Its 5-story tower house dominates the complex, with a lower hall, courtyard, and barracks below. Kilchan Castle was built in the mid-1400s, and it remained the base of the mighty Campbells of Glenorchy for 150 years. After the First Jacobite Rising of 1689, Kilchan was converted into a garrison stronghold, but was abandoned by the end of the 1700s.